Oh, it's something that I feel like it doesn't really need an explanation. It's just something you always want to do. You know, it's scary, but it's something that you're just drawn to doing. You know, as far back as I can remember, the first thing you think of when you think of, I don't care if it's a jet, if it's a car, it's a boat. You know, your kid, it's the first thing. You're like, how fast does it go? And it's just like an inherent question. I don't know what it is about going fast that makes you want to do it.
It is otherworldly. It's like sitting on the moon. It's a completely different environment than almost anyone's used to.
I think the cars are cool, but you know, even watching them go, I'd much rather go 180 miles an hour on a bike any day of the week. You know, you feel like you're going 3 times as fast as you are in a car. And just motorcycles, that's always been me. I've heard some horror stories. You know, firsthand, I was talking to a guy that I know, and he's built some, you know, partial streamliner twin-cylinder monsters. And he was telling me once he was up around 240 and the bike caught on fire. He waited until it got down to about 180 before he hopped off it. And I was just looking at him, I'm like, you waited to 180. You know, like, thank God you did that. So most bikes that are designed to go fast on a track, yeah, they're aerodynamic, but it has to be a balance. You know, it has to be something that the rider gets good feel in turns with. So, you know, it's got to have a certain amount of suspension travel, rider position, you know, ground clearance too. You know, the only concern I could think of is a sport bike Ducati, the steering geometry and the suspension, it's meant to go around turns. It's meant to be stable at high speed, but I don't know if the thing's going to be like a shopping cart on the salt or not. And at Bonneville, you just want to go straight and open the throttle. So, from what I've heard, you lose a lot of your speed to wheel spin. So I got the tallest gearing I could find in the time frame that I had, and I think the rear wheel's geared to spin about 200, 210 miles an hour, and so I'm guessing 170-ish. You know, I think that I heard you lose a good chunk of your speed to wheel spin, so I think you could probably hit about 170. I didn't realize how special Bonneville was. It was something I kind of took for granted. You know, you'd see someone break a record if it was the Blue Flame or something. You'd see it every now and then, you know, growing up as a kid, and they break another record, and it was something like, oh, it'll always be there. It's awesome, you know, just to see what they do there. But then to find out that it's not going to live forever. You know, like the salt's being mined, and then I found out it could only be a few more years, you know, but it will be in my lifetime. You know, the last runs, and that's when I felt this urge to do it. I was like, you know, I've heard nightmare stories about Bonneville, and these guys build these vehicles for years, and sometimes it'll be, you know, a few years where the conditions are so bad they can't run. You know, it is a lake for part of the year, so you know you need it to dry out and you need it to be flat, and there's not much salt left, so it's pretty volatile. But I didn't realize I always wanted to do it until I found out that the clock was ticking. And then, you know, a good friend of mine, Jerry, gave me a call, and he was thinking the exact same thing, and said, let's do it.
I actually think this is definitely safer than doing it on the street. For a start, there's nothing to crash, very little to crash into. But I've got to say, like, I'm nervous about the traction. Just walking on it, it feels not icy, but waxy. So I don't know. There's our man, bare-chested, looking like some Greek Adonis.
I was watching the gauge at 160. I was like, I think it's reading a little high, so I just kept it at 160 and just feathering it. But
Okay. I've never even sat on the bike before. I mean, I've never ridden it. I've never even touched an 1198 in my life.
yeah, I know. It's once you get it going, it's tame. You just, I didn't even have to, like, you know, I noticed I didn't like rev it out.
Yeah.
Each gear it's got so much power. You just short shift, and then once you get up to like fifth, then you just slowly. But yeah, I didn't mean to go that fast. I thought it was reading high.
So it was saying 160.
It was just, I kept it steady at 160.
So I'm pretty nervous about the whole thing, to be fair.
You know, there's only so much you can do. You can have good gear, and you can make sure the bike's good. You know, past that, yeah, there's always an element of chance, but you know, you try and, I guess, take every bit of riding experience you've had and put it in there, and just keep yourself calm.
I'm about to race. I've got responsibilities. I've got kids, and I was like, I didn't want to like do myself in and be an irresponsible person. And all right, my darling. Bye. Bye. I love you too. For me, this is like the last bastion of speed, and it's good to have some safety regulations, but it's pretty cool to be able to just let rip and have total freedom to just go for it.
221, the actual quarter-mile speed of 124.3.
I felt like a bit of a serenity as soon as I actually got going. It was the build-up that I was very anxious about, but as soon as I got going, I was like, I felt a certain relief when I saw the 3rd mile marker. Like, I can relax now, I've not killed myself, and I've got a reasonable time in. I also didn't want to put in some pathetic time, which would have just been an embarrassment. So I got a reasonable time in and I survived it. 160.66797. I found the whole build up to it, like the anxiety, I was like off the scales anxious.
Yeah, Jerry was a mess.
Thanks. No, but for me it felt like I did a bit of skydiving, but then I realized I was too scared to actually do skydiving as a hobby. And basically every step towards the jump, I became more and more anxious and nervous and scared. And it was a bit like that here. Getting suited up, putting the boots on, getting everything ready, sitting on the bike, each was like a next step up in the anxiety scale. And when you actually go, when you jump out of the plane, when you set off on your bike, it's a relief, it's a release as well. Like your anxiety washes away and you just deal with what's happening, and it's fucking awesome.
I wasn't worried about the bike. That was one thing you didn't have to think about, which is kind of nice. You know, usually when you build an engine or you build a bike, you can't even enjoy it. You're riding it on the street sometimes because you've built every part of that engine and you're listening to every single sound. On this, I literally just put my chin on the tank and just fed the throttle and until it wouldn't go any faster.
And actually, I don't know about you, but just being on the salt was enough. That was almost enough for me. That was a huge thing just to be there. And also going fast legally and being encouraged to go fast, that's quite cool.
There's not many things left to do these days where you're allowed to hurt yourself, where you're allowed to do something dangerous. So many things are regulated. It's kind of refreshing to go out there and to be able to risk something, but also to be able to gain something, to be able to say, I went 200 miles an hour on a salt bed, or, some of the guys there 500 miles an hour, whatever it is. But dare to do something a little bit dangerous and be allowed to do it. They're safe, but it's as safe as you can be when you're hopping on a homemade missile and shooting down the salt. I mean, there's some guys there that were crazy. I saw them, like, you're getting on that. There was one guy, he was on a motorcycle. The whole motorcycle was a foot tall. He had to slide into it, and his chin was like literally sitting on the ground. And I saw that, I'm like, that was awesome. Salty dog, been doing it for like 40 years. And it was kind of refreshing to be able to see, like, all right, there still is, that creative, adventurous spirit, like, allowed to happen.
Being here was such a privilege, almost a humbling experience. And I don't know, they say never meet your heroes. If Bonneville and the people who ride here are my heroes, I definitely haven't been disappointed, and it was honestly a humbling experience, and I'm truly pleased to have been able to do it, and to be able to tick it off my bucket list.
Mi chiedo vale la pena di restare qui abbracciati. Mentre il giorno non c'è più e la luna da lassù fa da specchio ai nostri baci. Se ti guardo dentro agli occhi, mentre già mi batte il cuore, e ti dico che per me stare insieme di con te
What I thought were
sapore
amazing interviews,
dell'amore.
like saying really cool, profound things. And then like, all right, can we do it again? What's on?
Sei tu che mi baci, baci di amore mi baci. Ti ho cercato stamattina.
I set the mic up on the table with an external recorder, and I got Gerald sat there. I mean, you'll see it in a second. And he just basically eats his cookie and is like, I'll get rid of the trash and throw it over here, and throws it directly at the microphone.
Buongiorno mio amore, mio caro l'amore, è nei tuoi baci. Caro l'amore, sei tu che mi baci. baci,
Describe something next to the microphone. Like, for real? You just did that? You didn't notice that?
I didn't know what that thing was.
Really?
Oh, really? I hear every little tiny crackle like that.
I have seen enough of that washboard stomach to last me a lifetime. It makes me feel really good about my dad, though. I don't look like too much of a heifer, do I? One of those cows, a female cow, a heifer? It's called a heifer in Scottish. Yeah. Anyway.
E mi perdo nei tuoi baci, dentro il cuore si mi bruci, come il sole d'estate ti voglio come sulla